we discussed the potential for an inventory of public safety resources and capacities, and I know Department of Homeland Security is very interested in doing so. We touched on the COPS program, and Vieques, in addition to the redevelopment of the former naval assets there, they have crime protection, et cetera, concerns, and they have matching grant issues with the Department of Justice that we want to take a look at. We also talked about moving assets around on the territory. The governor has under his authority the Guard assets, and we want to talk about how to optimize those resources, certainly within the context of responding to natural disasters. Basically, you have about a 48-hour advance warning if a hurricane is going to hit. How long does it take to move assets onto the island to be responsive to a hurricane, et cetera? So we touched on those aspects. We also touched on, Eric touched on the need for federal government to talk with each other. We touched on this issue where when the Haitian earthquake struck, there was a need for disaster assistance, and how assets on the island were prepared to go to Haiti, which is really just a skip across water, but yet they could not go because they were part of a different defense command than the command that was responding to this event. So we're looking at what can be done to help to break that down. So in the future, this is one of these common sense things that, you know, when you look at it, you hear about it, it makes sense, but you're not able to respond to it. We also, quite frankly, heard some of what you heard here in this context. When you send your sons and daughters off to fight on behalf of this country, you expect that your sons and daughters are going to have the same entitlements as the citizens of the states and the same access to treatments, et cetera, when they come back. And there are disparities in that. It was raised as a security issue, but quite frankly, it transcends security. It goes to many other issues. And then lastly, but not least, just so you know, status did come up in our discussion as well, within the context certainly of fighting crime and the drug situation. And I think we had a very good interaction for the time that we had, and I think we left the door open for additional inputs back to your website on those issues. And did I miss anything from
No, we're good.
that? By the way, Department and State are working very well together.
That's always good to know.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. So we'll be able to discuss this more robustly when the task force next meets. But it's important to understand, again, and I know it's been said before, that the mandate of the task force is to look both at the political status questions as well as a broader set of economic issues. So it was important to make sure that we tried to do all of that at this, our second public meeting, but we wanted to have an opportunity to open the floor for anybody who wants to engage in the task force. I think the way we're going to do this is ask folks to try to limit their comments to a couple of minutes, so we may be flashing twos at you if you go on for longer than 2 minutes. But we wanted to make sure, since folks have come really from various parts of the country, that they have an opportunity to address the task force and help us, you know, think about whatever it is you think we need to know or need to be considering. I feel so far we've had really quite a good, robust conversation, but if there's any additional comments that folks want to raise with us, this is the time.
Hi, my name is Fred Riefko. I'm here as a citizen of the United States and Puerto Rico, and I've got two messages. Basically, number one is that the process, I was actually part of the group that was going through Congress and talking to different congressmen as 2499 was being discussed. And one of the assistants to one of the congressmen was very agitated because he'd just seen a program on Glenn Beck or something about the Tennessee plan, and you know, is that true? Can that really happen? My message is that what we're trying to do, we're trying to promote in Puerto Rico is an organized process that goes through all the channels and gets something real done that is viable for Puerto Rico, that is something that can really be done. And if you think of what the associated state or the new Commonwealth or whatever, just think about Arizona and the problems you're having with Arizona right now in creating their own laws. Well, think about what you would have with Puerto Rico in a territory full of American citizens trying to create their own laws. and going counter to what the other states wanted to do. So what the last thing you want, my message is to do this as fast as possible. I think the two professors were very clear in what's viable or not viable, but don't let this process go on, because what you don't want to happen is for Puerto Rico to do a plebiscite that is the local plebiscite and then come and ask for something that the U.S. isn't willing to give. You're going to have not only a disenfranchised side from the Commonwealth people, but also a very large population, which is the majority of the Puerto Rican population, which is going to be also disenfranchised. So do it quickly, take the leadership, and let's get it done.
Good afternoon. My name is Henry Acosta. I'm the Executive Director of the National Resource Center for Hispanic Mental Health and the Chair of the Alliance for Latino Behavioral Workforce Development, which is an outcome of a successful DHS initiative through the Office of Minority Health. I appreciate the President's Task Force giving me the opportunity to be here today, and really want to encourage you to, as you think about economic development, to really consider that no economy will ever thrive without individuals or communities being healthy. And in terms of being healthy, I'm not just talking about the physical health of the individuals in those nations or in those states or in the Commonwealth. So regardless of the status of Puerto Rico, we need to ensure that the community is healthy. And by healthy, I mean physically, emotionally, mentally, and behaviorally. So we need to really address the needs of the population. We clearly know that Hispanics overall as an ethnic group tend to underutilize mental health services and are unfortunately overrepresented in many of our nation's most vulnerable and high-need populations. And this is very true for the individuals living on the island of Puerto Rico. We have high rates of poverty. We have high rates of individuals with no health insurance, with lack of educational opportunities, with represented in low economic status, in low occupational status, and low socioeconomic status. And studies clearly show that stress and psychological distress are linked to poverty. And according to the former Surgeon General's Dr. David Satcher's report, which clearly highlights that individuals that are in the lowest strata of income, education, and occupational opportunity are 2 to 3 times more likely to have a mental health condition. We know that Latinos are overrepresented in this area. We also know that we have high rates of suicide among Latino youth, and we need to really consider the mental health needs of the population if we're looking at the economic sustainability of our community. So I hope that the task force will consider this, and thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name is Rafael Fantauzzi. I'm the President and CEO of the National Puerto Rican Coalition. The National Puerto Rican Coalition, also known as NPRC, is a nonpartisan, not-for-profit advocacy organization that represents all 8 million Puerto Ricans on the mainland and the island. Our core mission is to enhance the social, political, economic well-being
towards the future
of
and
all
what kind
Puerto
of
Ricans
training we
in
can
our
provide
islands. Some
that
of our
will
work
match what
as
these
members of the
other
National Hispanic
departments
Leadership
are doing in
Agenda,
terms of
we
the
work
ability to attract
in order to
investment,
increase
so that we're
funding
training the
and the
workforce
inclusion
for
of
the
Puerto
future
Rico
in
during
areas
President
like
Obama's healthcare
green
reform.
jobs,
NPRC was also instrumental in getting
for
visibility
healthcare, allied
around
health,
the abuses of the Navy in Vieques.
We
And
toured
most
along
recently,
with
we have
everyone
tackled
and
the fight
received a
to
lot of really
protect the rum
interesting
industry in Puerto
information
Rico
from
by
regional
exposing the abuse
municipalities
by
and
Diageo and the U.S. Virgin Islands around the
specifically around
utilization
their
of federal
interests,
funds.
because we need to hear
We are
from
very
you,
grateful that the
what
Obama
you
administration
think
and the
where
task
the
force
island can go
for
and what
bringing
kind of
dialogue
investments
around
can
the
be made
issues
and
that
how we
affect
can
the
also
people of Puerto
better
Rico.
leverage our resources
As I have
as
indicated,
we move forward.
NPRC's
So
main
everything
concern
from
is not a
infrastructure we
political
heard,
one.
and as well as issues like
While
tourism
some
and
people see
ecotourism.
only
So it's all
color,
looking forward.
we believe that we
Open
have
it
to
up.
see in color. It is only through collective efforts, not polarization or division, that we will be able to elevate the image and standard of living of our community. I would like to share some of NPRC's public policy views around the areas of status and the current legislation and economic development. And we thank you for tackling these issues. And by the way, nobody has ever heard this before, because this is the first time that our organization is actually taking a position around things like this. While NPRC supports a self-determination process for residents of Puerto Rico, we have chosen to not take a position on the issues at this time for the following unresolved issues, and this is concerning the Puerto Rico Democracy Act. First of all, poor timing. Puerto Rico is currently experiencing a 16% unemployment rate. Some estimates place this number higher. The fiscal and economic prospects for the islands are very dim, and emphasis needs to be placed in stimulating the economy by encouraging increased foreign direct investment, focusing on industry development, and finding ways to reduce the federal deficit, all of which can prove useful in creating more jobs, opportunities, and improving the economic outlook of the island. Non-priority investment of time and money. A significant investment of time and money is necessary to allow for the plebiscite process to move forward. According to the Puerto Rico State Elections Commission, the cost to the government of Puerto Rico for the plebiscite could well exceed $7 million, which they have stated they do not have. An estimate that does not include marketing and advertising expenses necessary for the implementation of the plebiscite itself. The government of Puerto Rico and organizations like NPRC would make better use of their time focusing on issues that are more likely to provide an increased possibility for tangible, implementable, cost-effective, and sustainable results for island residents. The need for greater education. Voters must be well informed on the implications of their vote. For each plebiscite option, a detailed explanation as well as a plan of action outlining how a given option will be implemented and what the transition process will be entailed must be provided. Voter confusion over what the implications of their vote and means for themselves and their families make voters uncomfortable from changing the island's political status by way of plebiscite process. Increased information and education on this process could prove useful in ensuring a more successful outcome, one that reflects the will of the people. I think when you're focusing on economic development, and actually, as a matter of fact, NPRC has called upon the task force to focus on the economic development on the island. Of course, the self-determination process is important, but we also have to strengthen and stabilize the economy of Puerto Rico. We got to focus on the pharmaceutical industry. That's an industry that we have to continue to support and find ways on retaining that industry. Information technology industry. Puerto Rico's educated workforce and talent in fields like information technology, engineering, and science provide a unique foundation for the development of promising IT. And one that we think is extremely important. Just one more point.
Okay.
It's energy. Thank you. Energy. Demand for green jobs and technology can prove useful given Puerto Rico's location, natural resources, and access to Latin America and the Caribbean. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. This woman over here.